My apologies. I got kind of off task and forgot what I was doing today. Today's about the Moodle Gradebook. I'm going to use the default theme for today to go through the Moodle Gradebook and kind of talk about some things and settings, realizing that it's going to look a little bit different no matter, or depending on what theme you have selected, whether you've got the default theme or you've got one of the other themes selected. I'm going to go to one of the district. I think we've got a blank course down here in the district someplace. Well, nothing else. I'm going to add a new course. We'll do that. So we'll just go in from there. So right now I'm going to add some users. Let me see. Let me add a couple users in the demo course here. Let me do I'll delete all these kids when we're done. Oh, Brian Smith doesn't want to be in there probably. Everybody named Smith will be in the course for now, just so we've got some people in here in the course as far as our class goes for the use of purposes today, so that we've got some things showing up in the course itself. And I'm going to throw some sidebars on here just to have some things on the side. So we'll just add the calendar down here. And we will add participants on here as well, just so we can have some blocks on the side as well. So when we come into and we add anything into the gradebook, we first have to understand kind of the whole idea of how the gradebook works. So we've got a gradebook. And at the bottom, where however long that gradebook is, we've got an average down here at the bottom of our gradebook, some kind of score. That score down here for the entire class is the only one that really matters, in that when we upload to Dazzle, when we upload our grades, it's looking at that overall grade that's at the far right or at the bottom that works it all together. Everything in your gradebook counts and averages in to that average that has a number in it, unless you force it otherwise. So we have something called categories in Moodle that we can use to force weighting, and we can use to zero out things. So in general, what we like to do is we like everybody to have, and how you write it, you can write the word quarter and 1, you can make it be Q1, you can make it Q-1, doesn't matter. Everyone's going to have the 4 quarters or the 2 quarters if it's a semester course in their grade book. And then all the things for the first quarter will be in that one, second quarter in this one, third quarter in this one, fourth quarter in this one. And when it's first quarter, we need to make sure that anything in here is zeroed out, and likewise when it's second quarter, we need to zero out first quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, because Moodle's going to average everything together that is not weighted as 0. So we like to make a zeroed category, and we like to put all those other things in it so that we know that those things in that are zeroed out. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Really, it kind of makes more sense when you see it. So to get into the grades, I go into Gradebook Setup. Now, depending on your theme, it's going to say Gradebook Setup and go right into the setup part of the gradebook, which is where I'm at right here. There's the view. Setup. Scales is for middle school. The scales are set up to the high school grades by default, because there's more of them to it. If you're in the middle school, you have to change your scales to the 60, 70, 80, 90 scale range. Indicators are something that elementary school uses. Letters are, that's the letter grade that goes with it instead of scales. I said that wrong. Scales go with indicators. Letters are what grades go with each. And this is where you import and export. Most teachers are only going to use these two things, the view and the setup. So I'm in setup. You can see the demo course has a total down here at the bottom. It's worth 100 points. That's the number that's going to upload. So I'm going to make some categories. So I'm going to hit add quarter category, and I'm going to add a quarter one. And I'm going to hit save changes. And I'm going to add quarter two. Like I said, you can name it anything you want to. And these may already be set up for you. I'm going to add a quarter three. And by default, all these are worth 100 points. And so if we did nothing else, these 4 100-point things would be averaged together. Oops. So there's my quarter 4. Now, when I'm adding anything in the Moodle, I can tell it which one of these categories it goes into as I'm building those things. So if I'm building something in the demo course and I'm going to turn editing on and just add an assignment. If I go to add an assignment, one of the things in the add assignment, and I'm not going to do it right now, I'm just going to scroll down. One of the things down under the grade is, where is this grade going? So I'm going down to grade, you say what it's worth, and where is it going? It's going to go in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, or quarter 4. So you pick the category. When you add the item, you can say how many points it's worth, and most of the time we leave it right at simple direct grading, so it's going to average points. So maybe this thing's only worth 10 points and it belongs in category 1. We can drop down, you can pick any of the categories that you have built whenever you add something into Moodle, and you want to do that so that it goes in the appropriate spot in the grades. And I got to zoom out a little bit so my stuff shows up on the side. There we go. Throw this calendar over here so it looks a little bit more like my courses that I do every day. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Gradebook Setup. So I've got those 4. Right now, they would average them all together to create this. So I want to add that zeroed category. So I'm going to add a category, and I'm going to call it zeroed, meaning it's worth nothing. And in order to get that, I have to click on category total here and say it's worth 0. And then I'm going to hit save changes. So now I have this category down here worth 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move with the up down arrow button all the other things into that 0 category. So I'm clicking the up down arrow by the quarter, and if there were tons of things in the quarter, it would add them to that as well. I'm going to go down here, and now when I look at this, I see quarter 1 and all of its contents are worth 100 points. All the other quarters are now in this 0 category, which were worth 0 points, to average out that 100, meaning that during first quarter, all the points are coming from here. And then when I move to a new quarter, I just hit that up down arrow and move it into zeroed and move quarter 2 out. That way, I always know the current quarter is the one that's being used to calculate the grade that's in the course total. Now, that is simple grading right there. If I add anything into quarter 1, it's going to average the point values together and come up with the grades that the students would then have in there. Just so you know, in your view, it's going to show everything, whether it's hidden or not, and it's going to average everything, whether it's hidden or not, and it's going to upload all the scores, whether it's hidden or not. In the student view, when the students have a view down here, on there, they see the student report, and when they see their student report, I'm going to go ahead and just throw Mr. Smith down here. When they see the student report, even though this is worth 0, it's still showing right now. And anything that's in here, whether it if it's hidden, is not going to average in here what they see, but it's still going to upload what they get. So those things are not going to match if you've got things hidden. They don't see hidden things. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to go back here under Setup, and under the zeroed one, I'm going to go down and say Hide. Now those things are grayed out. If we were to look at the gradebook here on the Moodle gradebook, you're going to see those zeroed things. In fact, I can shrink all those things down to the 0 category. It's still going to average in this case, nothing, because we zeroed it out. But down in the student's view, student report, they don't see that stuff. They will not see, here, let me switch to student. They do not see anything. You can see there, do not see anything that's hidden on their view of the grade report. So when you hide things in the gradebook, it still calculates in your view. It does not calculate, it is not seen in the student view. So that's a little disconnect. Now, because we've got that 0 category, those things don't matter anyways, so they're not going to calculate. So we like to put those hidden things in that 0 category so that those things don't show up. Now from here on out, everything that I drop in quarter 1 is just going to be averaged to that 100-point value. Many of us, I'm going to say most of us, use subcategories and weigh things differently. For instance, in my class, I use summative and formative grading. My formative grading is only worth 10%. My summative grading is worth 90%. So I actually make a subcategory in there. We do that down here as well. So I'm going to add a category, and I add mine's summative 1, so I know it's first quarter summative. And then I have to go to the category total and say, you know what, this is worth 90%. So I'm going to say it's worth 90. Hit save changes. I didn't put it in the category list down there. I want it up here in quarter 1. And I'm going to add a formative one too. So I'm going to add a category, and I'm going to say formative 1. I'm going to expand everything up here in the top right of this section so you can see something else. So this is only going to be worth 10%. And this is going to go in a parent category. This is where I wanted it in the first place. I want it in quarter 1. So I'm going to hit, hey, it's worth 10 of the 100. It's going to go in quarter 1. And now when I go back here, you can see that of the 100%, 10 of it's coming from formative and 90 comes from summative. Some teachers use 80-20. You don't have to use that at all. It's up to you. It's teacher prerogative how they want to weigh summative and formative items. This just happens to be the way I do mine. There's some teachers that might have tests are worth 50% of the class in their syllabus and homework's worth 10%. You can do that as well. If I wanted to, I'm going to go ahead and do it down here in quarter 2. I'm going to move quarter 2 up, like we just moved to quarter 2. I'm going to move quarter 1 down into the 0 category right there. And now quarter 1 is zeroed out, doesn't count at all. And now quarter 2 is the only one counting, because you can say this is category zeroed. You see it by the bands of color is worth nothing. So everything inside there is in total worth nothing. And then quarter 2 is up here. Now if I want to break my grades up a different way, other than summative and formative, which I don't, but some teachers do, you might have in your syllabus how much things are worth, I can do it like that too. So I could do, for instance, I could do one called test 1 and say, hey, I'm going to hit expand all again. Tests are worth 50% of my class. I just typed 80. 50% of my class, and that goes in quarter 2. So I see now in quarter 2 is test 1, it's worth 50. And by the way, if we're doing this, we need to make sure they add up to 100 when we're all done, or it's going to skew our numbers a little bit. So I'm going to say test 1, in other words, test for quarter 1. I can make it say Q1 test, the word does not matter. I can say daily, if I can spell, there we go, daily homework. 1, and I hit expand all again. I'm going to say that's worth 20% of my grade, and that also goes in quarter 2. So we can do that, and we can do some other things with this. Obviously, we've got 30% more to figure out here, but let's say that you want to tell the kids that, hey, we're going to do daily homework or weekly homework, however you do homework. Maybe you're a math teacher and you're doing a weekly packet or something. But you get one free buy of the year that we're gonna drop the lowest grade. You can do that with categories as well. So I'm gonna go back here to daily homework and hit the edit button and say edit settings, and I'm gonna expand all. On this, in the categories, we have the ability to do even more than what we see when we expanded that. And you can see that here under the show more. Down here you can see show more. So right here, daily homework, by default, it's set to exclude empty grades. I would highly suggest you leave that. That's the default setting for a purpose. In other words, if you don't put anything in, it's not graded. You have to put a 0 in for it to count. That causes a lot of problems if you uncheck that, so I would not uncheck that. However, you can say keep the highest or drop the lowest. So in other words, you can tell kids that, hey, you get 1 buy on your daily homework. If you're really busy and you've got a game or whatever, 1 homework or 2 or 10, however you want to do it, can be dropped. So I could say, hey, drop the lowest 2. And that means that 2 times they can take a pass on their homework and it's not going to affect their grade. And you could put that in their syllabus. So now it's just going to drop that. Likewise, my son, who was in another school, that they did a weekly ACT test prep, and their teacher told him, hey, the highest 10 will count. So no matter how many we get to, your highest 10 counts. So if you get 10 100s, you don't have to take the test again. It's not going to do anything for you. So you can do either one of those. You can say I'm going to drop the lowest certain number or keep the highest certain number. And beyond that, it's going to not count any more than if I did this 10 homeworks. And the best 10 homeworks it's going to count. And you can do it without even telling the kids. So you kind of give them a buy, although I don't know if I would do that. I want them to know that they're doing something. But anyway, so you could do either one of those things you could do on there as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because I want to show you what that looks like at the end. So it says keep 10. So if you looked at their review on their grades right now, I'm going to go to the student report. I'm already there. We'll pick Mr. Smith again. So on his class, I've got nothing in there. So I would need to put some grades in there in order for you to see that. But you would see, as it's doing that it would be keeping 10. What just happened there? Did I not unhide? I may not have unhid that. I didn't unhide it. So it was in there, and I did not unhide the quarter 2 category when I moved it out. I was like, what is going on there? Okay, let me go back to view and student view. I'll pull down his grades again, and now you should see what I was saying. Okay, so you're going to see the test total worth up to 50 points, and the daily homework, and it says keep 10. So it says right there, the students are going to see that it's going to keep the highest 10, meaning that as soon as you get over 10, it's only going to keep the highest 10 of those. So that's how only keeping some of them counts. The last thing I wanted to show you is how to do extra credit. I usually do it as a category as well. So I'm going to add a category here, and I'm going to say extra credit -1. Again, I'm going to expand all, and I'm going to show more down here. And if I go down, oh, maybe it was this one. It was this one. Nope, it was on the right one. Hidden, locked, read adjusted, quarter 2, oops, wrong quarter, quarter 2, not even seeing my extra credit. Oh, right there. No. Exclude empty grades, why am I not seeing it? Read adjusted. Oh, no, it's not there. Why am I not seeing the extra credit thing? It's a little checkbox locked after. What am I missing? You know what? Actually, now that I think about it. Okay, so extra credit, I'm going to go back in and edit it. I think it only shows up wow, why can't I find the extra credit category? I just saw it. I feel like Dan's there watching, and so dude, it's right there. Expand all. Show more. Nope. Show more. extra credit, it's right there. Why didn't I see that? Right there, parent category, extra credit. Okay, I have to go back to the other one because that doesn't make any sense. I swear I looked there. Parent category, extra credit. I'm going crazy. Okay, so if I do that, I've got an extra, the category's name is extra credit. I check extra credit. I save changes. Now this one doesn't even count towards the average the way the other one does. This is not going to count, it says 100. It doesn't matter because it's just going to add the points here into the points here and give it as extra credit and not divide the total out of it at all. So if you had something in here, and I could just throw a grade in there really easily. I'm going to put in quarter 2. Oh, I'm doing quarter 2 and I'm naming these daily homework 2 and 1. With 100 points. So I've got this in there and I'm going to add extra credit as well. Add grade item. Extra. And I'm going to put it into extra credit. It didn't really make sense, by the way, because this is quarter 2. This should have been test 2, homework 2, extra credit 2, but we'll pretend. And if I go to view now and I decide I want to go and enter my grades, so I'm going to view and go to the Moodle Gradebook and I turn editing on so I can enter grades there. If I went and added, let's say I gave, what did I do? I hit the lock button. I didn't mean to hit the lock button. Okay, so I wanted to give Mr. Smith a 10 points. If I did that and it's out of 100, he's not going to be very happy right now. And then I go down and look at his student report. He's got an F. He's got 10% of the class. Now, if I go to the same place and I decide I'm going to give him 90 points of extra credit, I hit save down here. I think I hit save. Okay. And then I go and look at the student report now for him. I just got 90 points added to that, so now all of a sudden he's got 100%. So these points, because it's extra credit, and it says extra credit right there, does not average into the total, but it adds to the number of points for there. So you have to be careful with extra credit, by the way, because it's really easy to give a kid too many points. My extra credit category, in fact, is only worth 10. So no matter what, they can't get more than 10 points in extra credit through the course of the semester, because otherwise that's a whole letter grade of extra credit. I've never actually given that many. I've never given more than 4. But you can see what I'm saying. And if you put those into something like the test value, then it's only going to be extra credit for test scores, or it can only be extra credit for homework scores. If you don't have it in here, but you have it inside another category, so this extra credit is inside tests, so it only goes towards test scores, not the total quarter scores. So you can see how these things work, and as I add assignments, they just go in those categories. So I'm going to go back now to my class, and I'm going to try to go in there without actually showing any scores. And I'm going to go into my teacher gradebook here. By the way, I made my own, that was my own shortcut that goes straight into the teacher gradebook, so that I go straight in there. When they click class grades, they go straight into theirs. And if you don't know, the students just go up here and go down to grades to see their grades now. So they get to their grades a little bit differently than they did before. So you can see in my class, I've got first quarter out here, and then I've got a 1 formative. And way down here, I got a 1 summative. And all these things go together into my formative grades, and they add up to a total of 10%. Then in my chapter grades, I've got in the summative, I got a chapter 1 fight, and it's got 2 things in it, and it says keep the highest one. So if they take the fight and they don't like the grade they got, that's a test, by the way, they don't like the grade they got, they can do 5 extra activities. Those are those, if you look up here, the ones that say IA 1, 2, 3, and 4. they do those extra activities, and then, sorry about that, then they can try the rematch, and then it'll keep one grade. In other words, whichever one of these is higher is the grade that's going to go into the gradebook. And you see they're all worth 70% because it only keeps one at 70 points. So I want this chapter 1 fight to still only be worth 70 points. Chapter 2, right now there's only one. I'm going to break it out and do the same way. So if they do a retest, it will keep the higher of the two averages. Chapter 3 is already set up that way too, as far as keeping one, and they won't get past chapter 3 by the end of the quarter. So you can see this summative is worth 90 of my total grade. And then I've got a category called hidden and zeroed, which if we go all the way to the bottom, hidden and zeroed is worth nothing. So my course total here comes directly from my first quarter grade here. All the rest is inconsequential in my gradebook. So that's how the Moodle gradebook works. You can, if you're like, I'm an Excel guy, I'd really like to see what it looks like there, you can go and do an export into Excel, and you can pick what things that you want to get. Like right now it's going to do everything in my whole gradebook. You could say, no, I don't want all those. All I want is my first quarter stuff. Unfortunately, you can't pick it by category. You either pick them all, or you go through and go, I want this, I want this, I want this, kind of thing. To get that export, I'd rather just do all that, hit download, and then open the file and delete the categories that I didn't want after that. But it gives us a nice, you can see none of these things are done here. It gives us a nice spreadsheet that I can use. And I keep this the end of every year so that I have all my kids' averages if I need them. That's a good thing to have for parent-teacher conferences and that kind of stuff. So I do use that export. The gradebook looks a little different depending on your theme. So if I were to go back here and choose another theme, it doesn't look completely different, but it does look a little bit different. So if I go down and I were to pick a different theme to choose from than the default, the move theme is one of the most different themes. I can go down here then and I can go to my gradebook. And the gradebook, the colors are a little different, the spacing is a little different. I actually like the way this one looks as this setup a lot more. You can see, look how much more room I have. It's much easier to see. I really like this theme a lot. It's very, very clean. And there's a couple of these 2-column themes that are really clean that I like a lot more than the default one that's in there now. That will change when we get all the colors set. And in fact, I'm going to send out a vote and let the staff vote on which one they want. And then they can always pick their own no matter what for their course. So that's it for the Moodle Gradebook. It's not cosmic. It is basically the same that it was last year. The settings are exactly the same in the setup. The one thing that's changed is we don't have the LAE grader. This is all the same as it always was. The one difference is we don't have that LAE grader view that shows or hides all the other things. We have to put them in our own category like I did here in this hidden and zeroed one. And then we just hit the little plus minus button and it expands those things out. So you can see my gradebook is ginormous now. And then I can go to hidden and zeroed and I hit the little button again. And it collapses it. It's still not collapsed all the way. It's basically 3 settings. I do one more time. And now hidden and zeroed is collapsed all the way down into its own thing. And you can see there's no scores there because it doesn't count any of those scores in it as it goes. So because it is zeroed and I have hidden it. So that's the way that works. Hopefully this is a good review for some of you, and for those of you that are new, a good overview of how the Moodle Gradebook works. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for coming.